Thank you for joining Havis's first virtual trade show to learn more about our next generation canine transports. My name is Sarah Meyer and I am the marketing manager here at Havis. I will be your host for the Havis virtual trade show series. We are excited to showcase Havis products and solutions that increase productivity, safety, and comfort of mobile workers. I'm going to quickly review some housekeeping rules before we get started. First, for the duration of the show, all attendees' microphones will be placed on mute to ensure a positive experience for all of our attendees. Second, we have reserved time at the end of the show for Q&A. We request that all questions be typed to the chat box found on the lower right-hand side of your screen. Please note that Zoom offers two different viewing options, gallery and speaker. We recommend setting your view to the speaker view, which can be found at the top right-hand side of your screen. This will provide you with the optimal view of both the presenter and presentation. Lastly, Havis is recording all segments of this show for future reference. The link to the recording will be provided to all attendees shortly after the show. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Jeff Tripp, who is our Fleet Product Manager. Jeff is going to review the features and benefits of the next gen canine transports. Take it away, Jeff.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to tell you about some of the features and benefits for our new next generation canine inserts. First and foremost, one of the most important things to us at Havis is ensuring the comfort and safety of the canine officer as well as the human officer involved. And one of the best ways we can do this is to take the feedback that we receive from our customers, the installers who make these products fit into the vehicles, as well as the officers who live with them day in and day out. We take that feedback and bring it back to improve continually upon our products. So some of these features we'll walk through come directly from the feedback that we receive from the field. One of the first things that you'll notice that stands out that's different about our new canine inserts is this improved slider and rail system. You'll see 4 sliders, 1 at each corner, including a latch. And the latch is actually able to be mounted in any of the 4 positions based on the comfort and accessibility of the officer. This new system completely eliminates rattle from the door, even in the unlocked position, as well as locked. Has range of motion, complete range of motion from left to right. Quiet, no rattles. And this latch can latch in any position, so the door could be halfway open, able to get through and pet the dog, give some treats, whatever need to be done. We always want to maximize the amount of space, whether it's for the comfort of the driver, for the dog in the insert, or for the storage behind the insert. So another thing that we have taken into account is the slope of this front partition, as well as the position of this handle. We want the handle to be accessible, easily used, but low enough that it'll allow the driver's seat to recline and sit comfortably. When we design these inserts, we want to use OE mounting points, so it'll go into place in all the vehicles, but also have a nice tight finish and not require any drilling to install it. We also want to ensure that all of our seams and gaps are tight. We have rounded edges everywhere. We want to minimize any potential for the dog catching in any gaps, potentially getting caught on any sharp corners, or minimize any opportunity for the dog to chew on anything. All of our inserts are manufactured from heavy-duty aluminum, which is lightweight and durable. And we do a smooth powder coat finish, either in white or black. And even on the white inserts, you probably notice that the windows and door panels will be black, and that helps just to reduce some of the glare as you're trying to look through those areas. Something that's unique, so this one here is a Canine F28-1. This is for the 2020 Ford Interceptor utility. And what makes the Interceptor utility unique this time around is we developed these polycarbonate speaker pod covers that are integrated into the door panels. door panels themselves are aluminum as normal, but we have these large speaker pods. And the reason for that is that Ford integrated the speaker design into the door, and that can't easily be removed. You would physically have to cut it out. And if you cut it out, you wouldn't be able to return that vehicle to original condition. Once the vehicle was taken out of service, if you wanted to return it to original condition, you could do that with our door panels simply by popping them off and returning the original door panel over it. We include a variety of fan mounts. You can see here in the front partition, cutouts, block-off plates for optional 4-inch fans. In the window guards, there are cutouts for optional 10-inch fans. And these may move around depending on the particular vehicle and insert. Likewise, we will incorporate ventilation points into the bulkhead or the floor as necessary, as dictated by the vehicle, wherever the factory HVAC vents may be located, so we can maximize the airflow into the insert unit. We include dome lights in all of our Canine kits. So in a standard size kit, which is this, you will have 1 dome light. In an extra long kit, which I'll get to in a moment, you'll have 2 dome lights. Our dome lights have dual light functions, white light or red light. The red light is best for use at night, provides a little bit of lighting without making your eyes adjust from the extremes of brightness to dark at nighttime. Another thing that we include in all of our Canine inserts is a heavy-duty 1/4-inch thick rubber mat. This rubber mat provides a little bit of cushion as well as traction for the Canine officer, so they're not sliding around in there. But it's also really durable and heavy. It will lay flat, it won't curl up around the edges, and it will resist chewing. So as I mentioned, we're offering now 2 different sizes in our next generation Canines. We have a standard, in this case, the F28-1 for the 2020 Interceptor utility. This standard length is about 35 inches deep, and that's a good size for 1 dog. We have the XL, which is 45 inches deep, gives a little bit of extra room for the dog to turn around, or you could use an optional divider. So our new divider is a big upgrade too. It's not just a stationary wall as it was in the past. The new door features, the new divider features a door up in the front section here that will pivot from side to side, allowing ingress or egress or pass through inside the unit, as well as through the front partition door. The door itself latches inside, and the latch is accessible from either side inside the Canine insert or from the front, but it's only accessible with a finger. The dog can't get to it, chew on it, lick it, anything like that. It's out of the reach of the Canine officer for safety. We also offer I should mention too that the divider can be mounted in 50-50 or 60-40 positions, and we include those holes already in the front and rear partitions. So you simply take the divider, slide it into place where you want it, and feed the bolts through. The installation is that simple. We also offer a Canine PT for the Interceptor utility and in these next generation styles. For the Interceptor utility, the Canine PT is the 60-40 split. 60% goes to the Canine officer on the passenger side, and 40% is for the prisoner on the driver's side of the vehicle. You would use the factory seat and factory seat belt in that situation. The next generation designs have been released so far for the 2020 Interceptor utility, as I mentioned, the 2015 through 2020 Chevy Tahoe, as well as the 2015 through 2020 Ford F-Series pickups. Those have all been updated, either brand new releases or we revised the old ones to use and integrate some of these new features. Reminder, there will be a Q&A at the end of this full session. If you have any questions that we haven't answered, please use the text box on the side and enter those questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Next up is our design engineer, Chris Nonak, who will be giving you a walkthrough of the design of the next generation canine transports. Chris has been our primary engineer for vehicle 3D scanning here at Havis for the last 4 years. Chris, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. So on my screen here, I have a Canine F28 XL in a 3D scan of a 2020 Ford Interceptor utility. So basically, when we develop a new canine, engineers will go out and actually take apart pretty much the entire interior of the vehicle. We're looking for the best OE mounting points so that we don't have to ask you to drill holes or screw into anything. And also looking to understand what you can and can't do in terms of installation, order of operations, that sort of thing. Then we take those scans, we import them into SolidWorks and process everything and design around them. And generally speaking, we're looking to make things fit tightly to the interior, make it solidly mounted to those OE points that we found before, and also make sure that little features line up. Things like these HVAC overhead vents here, lining up with our ducting in the ceiling of the canine, for example. And on top of that, we're designing new features based on feedback, like everyone hated the door rattle that they've gotten on certain other canine units. We have these new sliders that Jeff talked about. They're a plastic clamshell design. They've got foam inside. They ride on aluminum rails, and they don't rattle at all. In addition to that, Jeff mentioned the divider door. This is an XL, so it does have the optional divider. And it's currently installed in this model in the 60-40 position towards the driver's side. And you can see I've got one side of the door transparent in the model. In the real world, that would be aluminum. And basically, we've got a tapered pin, grommets, there's a Delrin slider at the front, all to make sure that this doesn't rattle, but it also doesn't bind up when you have dirt and dust and fur and whatever else you might get in there. Once we're happy with the model, we'll go ahead and prototype the canine. We use the same machines that we use in production, and we'll work with the technical support guys to install that prototype, make little tweaks to make it fit better, because what's perfect on the computer is not always perfect in the real world, and write the installation instructions so that we really spell out every step that you need to do to put one of these in your vehicle. Then usually we'll run another round of prototypes just to make sure we have everything perfect, get it signed off, and we'll put it into production. People can buy it. Just a reminder, there will be a question and answer session at the end, so go ahead and type your questions into the chat.
Thank you, Chris. Next up is our technical support specialist, Dave Filion, who will be sharing some of the key canine tips and tricks with you. Take it away, Dave.
Thanks, Sarah. My name's Dave. I'm the technical specialist here at Havis. We're going to go over some features of the Canine F28-PT as well as some of the other canines. Primarily, one of the main questions that we get is how long does it take to put a kit in? Average time for a kit is around 5 to 6 hours, depending on the experience of the tech. If they're doing the additional Canine A201, also known as the hot and pop, add about another 5 to 6 hours to your install time. We'll start off, kind of dive in. This is some tips and tricks, and usually in the canine, you want to start with your door panels. The reason I want to point this out is our door panels have a little cutout here in them for access to the factory window track studs. Now, usually you want to make sure these are perfectly lined up and the pre-cut hole is already on here. And that kind of defines where your door panel goes on. And this is important because if they're not centered, the door panel is not going to line up elsewhere. Move on to the overall door panel here. Kind of what I wanted to point out here is occasionally we get some complaints where the stainless screws will sometimes strip out when going into the door panel. little trick with that is always make sure that you mark, pre-drill, 1/8" drill bit, and put a little bit of wax on the screws while you're installing them in the door, and that'll ensure that they go in there smoothly. Next, we'll jump over, kind of go off what Chris was saying with the way we tie into the OEM vents in the ceiling. Little thing to remember, make sure the vents are opened. It's no fun trying to open them after you've already put the vent cover and screwed it into the ceiling. Just a little heads up. Another thing I wanted to show here is the dome light. The reason I wanted to point that out is a little tip to remember is always make sure you run your dome light wiring prior to putting the insert in. As Chris said, we try and make everything very tight to all the factory seams and as low to the floor as possible. So trying to run wiring after the fact is a little tricky to say the least. Little thing I also wanted to show on the door panels is we have a lot of people that have commented on our polycarbonate speaker pods and why we decided to go this route, what is it, and why did we go, what's this unique feature for? This polycarbonate panel is used to cover a factory forward speaker pod, which I'll show on the next slide. The reason I keep saying polycarbonate is I don't want anyone to think it's just cheap plastic. We made this out of a very rugged, durable polycarbonate, which is the same material that's used on our divider bulkheads here to make sure this is torture tested and will hold up in a canine environment. Our engineers put this through the ringer to make sure it will not break. And a little bit of sneak peek behind the scenes here is this is what you see behind the door panel, behind the Ford OEM door panel and the Havis one. What Ford did on the 2020s is they did a large protruding speaker pod here, as well as a whole intermolded piece here, which attaches your window motor, the window track, and all the electronics. So rather than choosing to cut this, break it, modify it, we decided to work around it, thus allowing the vehicle to be able to be returned back to its factory state when it's being decommissioned. It is a no cut, no drill of the factory paneling here to install our panels. This is another little feature we put in, is for the Canine A201, also known as the hot and pop. One of the complaints we've received over the years is where do you put the shock? Where do you put this gas shock? Where does it line up? And if the installer does it wrong, you'll see little holes all over the door where they've tried to put a bracket and realize that the geometry was wrong and the door won't close. With our speaker pod being in place, we wanted to make sure there's a defined location for this bracket to go. So we did pre-drilled holes in the door panel and made sure there was solid sheet metal behind it so that you know you're getting a good solid mounting point every time. Little notation here is for the geometry to work right. You want to make sure that the ball is facing down. If you ever have an installer call you and say, this isn't working, Havis doesn't know what they're talking about, this is probably what they forgot to do. You want to make sure the ball is facing down, and that'll alleviate all the problems. For that to go through our floor, we already did a hole cut out in the floor for that shock to pass through. Now, if the customer is not using this gas shock, if they don't do the hot and pop, there is a cover plate that goes over here and seals off that area. That is included with the kit. If you're doing the shock, you just do not use that cover plate. This is a little shot of what the bracket looks like underneath the kit and where that interface is in. The front floor bracket in the front has two tabs that come down, one on each side, so go to either side, pre-drilled holes. And here you want to notice the ball is facing up. Just make sure you attach it that way, and that'll complete the geometry and make that shock will work well. A lot of the newer vehicles can be ordered with the Ford Ready for the Road package in varying degrees. If you get the fully loaded model, it comes with the Whelen Sencom system, which attaches to a metal bracket in the factory foam, which sits in this area. And when the foam is removed for the Canine insert to go in, you lose your bracket and place to mount this. So we offer an optional Canine A111 bracket, which ties directly into our rear mounting bracket for our Canine systems, the Canine F28XL and Canine F28PT. And it ties right into that, keeps all the factory wiring will reach and plug in, and you're all set. It's a little bit of another shot of showing it mounted on that rear bracket. It's just pre-threaded holes in the bracket, add in some hardware, and you're good to go. This can be put on afterwards if you forget to put it on. It's a little tricky, but it can be done, but it's best to do it when you're building the vehicle. This is showing an access cover. We made sure we incorporated into our XL and PT versions to make sure that you can access those electronics when the kit is installed. Occasionally a CENCOM will need to be reprogrammed, or the OEM electronics you may have to tie into. So we made sure we incorporated an access cover here so it's easily accessible at all times. Just 4 Phillips screws and it pops right off, and there is one of these on both sides with your XL model, and on the PT it is only on this side. Last thing I wanted to point out is back here, we wanted to show the emergency exit door between the Canine PT and the dividing wall between the prisoner. This is held in by 2 threaded knobs up here. So it's very easily removable in the event the vehicle's ever in an accident. That door cannot be opened, this door cannot be opened, whatever the case may be. Just wanted to highlight those. And the last thing I think I wanted to highlight was just some caulking tips. We occasionally see some vehicles come back in that maybe another upfitter's done, and every single seam is caulked on the kit. And it's not necessary. It takes a lot of unnecessary time. So I just kind of wanted to show a little tip here. Really, when you're doing these, all you need to do is caulk along the floor seams here, and kind of your lower seams. If you want to go up the wall a little bit, you can, but it's really not necessary. The idea is just for the kit to be able to be hosed out in case the dog has an accident, which does occasionally happen. And turning it back over to Sarah for some Q&A.
Thanks, Dave. Let's go ahead and jump into our questions and see what's come in.
Right, thanks, Sarah. Take a look at some of the questions here. So first one we've got is, what would you recommend as a storage solution for canines? So we offer a variety of different storage solutions for the 2020 Interceptor utility in particular. We offer a couple mounts for our modular storage drawer system. SBX 5001 works with the extra long canine. We also have SBX 5007 in the works, and that'll work with this standard length canine. The way those mounts work is the lower part fixes to the X-brace in the rear cargo area section, and then it also ties into the rear partition of the canine insert. We also offer cargo plates, TTP 1200 and 1201, hinged cargo plates under which you could mount some electronics, still have access to your spare tire, and you can mount modular storage drawers or other cabinets on top of those cargo plates as well. And likewise for other SUVs, Tahoe and Durango, we do have storage drawer mounts for those. What's the advantage of one color over another? So we offer these in white and black. Black was just introduced within the last couple of years, and that was directly, again, responding to feedback from officers. White, it's a personal preference thing at the end of the day. From what we hear, some officers prefer white. They think it looks cleaner, or one reason we've heard is that it could show any fluids, say, for example, if the dog were injured in a chase and were bleeding and it wasn't noticed until the dog got back in, maybe rubbed up against some of the white wall or something, then you would see that blood. That's one reason we've heard. Black, on the other hand, we hear has a calming effect on the dog. It gives a nice, dark, quiet place for the dog to relax. And it's low glare. That's another reason we've heard that people like the black, is because it doesn't reflect the light as much. Got a question about why did we choose to have the dog exit on the passenger side? And I'm sure that ties into the 2020 Interceptor utility again. It's the Canine F28-PT prisoner transport. So if you think back to the previous generation, the 2013 to 19 Interceptor utility, it was the opposite. We had the dog exit on the driver's side and the prisoner was on the passenger side. And the reason for that is we were really it was dictated by how the rear seat split. It was a 60-40 split, and the 40%, the small individual bucket seat, so to speak, was on the passenger side. In the new 2020 Interceptor, it's a 40-40-20 three-way split. So we could really choose which side we wanted it on. And again, we didn't make that determination. We went out to the field, polled our customers, and the majority feedback that we received was that officers preferred to release the dog on the passenger side away from traffic where it was a little bit safer. They could release the door automatically using one of the door popper kits and then have the prisoner behind them where it would be a little bit more accessible. Got another question here. What are the most common accessories that you recommend? We offer a variety of accessories for our canine inserts. As I mentioned, we have 4-inch fan kits that work in the front and rear partitions, depending on the vehicle. We offer 10-inch fan kits for the window guards. So, just trying to create a lot of ventilation in the area. We offer the door popper kit, as Dave was mentioning in the install portion. We have a dog bowl. We offer a whole bunch of different accessories to, really make the experience a lot better for the canine and human officers. What I would recommend is on our website, if you look up any of the products, in that product description section, you'll see some tabs, and there's a tab for related products, and we'll include all of the accessories and add-ons that are recommended for any of these inserts. That's all the time we have for questions today. If we didn't get to your question, I think we got a couple other questions that we didn't get to, but what we'll do is we'll answer those in an email and circulate to the viewers. But we do appreciate all the feedback and questions you submitted.
What you currently see on your screen now are some of our key resources: the Havis website, our weekly newsletters, and our social media channels, hashtags, and handles to follow, along with a few of our upcoming trade shows where you can see one of our next-gen canine units. Remember to contact your regional sales manager, inside sales representative, or independent sales rep for additional needs or requests. And again, please keep an eye out on your email for the link to this recording, along with the answers to the unanswered questions. Thank you for attending our virtual trade show.